Greetings, Hare Krishna. My name is Kamra Dasi, and today's video is on the topic of being banned. Some of you may have been following the cartoons that I've been posting recently on Facebook and may have seen some of my earlier videos on the topic of corruption inside the organization founded by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, known as ISKCON. I was born and raised in the Hare Krishna movement, and I spoke earlier on some of my history, but today's video is to share with you an invitation. I'm not here just to find fault and make fun of, etc. There is a point to all of this, and some of you have been asking why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I wrote this article, and sometimes it's easier to watch a video than to read an article. So I thought I would read it to you, if you'll bear with me. And I have some really important links to share with you in the body of the video. So I will post the transcript and you can read it also if you prefer that. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. This Sanskrit verse pays tribute to the bona fide spiritual master who liberates the sincere disciple from the darkness of illusion. What could be greater darkness than to have the greatest evil going on under the name of the greatest good? My purpose in this video is to invite sincere devotees and spiritual seekers to the actual shelter offered by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and the perfect transcendental teachings and behavior shown by him. My purpose is not to put down or even find fault in a mood of animosity. However, that being said, the truth must be told. The truth will set you free, all the way free. Free from society, friendship, and so-called love. The truth will bring one ultimately to the lotus feet of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Sri Krishna Bhagavan. A few years ago, a documentary called The Cost of Silence was put out by a second-generation peer of mine named Shaunakarishi Prabhu. You may have seen it and seen my little clip in it. It was about 3 minutes. But I had actually submitted to him a longer piece, a 15-minute piece, in which later on I decided to put the whole thing out. And I totally did not expect the violent reaction that it would cause in the community. Because in that video, I simply recounted, almost verbatim, a conversation that I had had with Radhanath Swami. I had previously, in 2013, gone all the way to Mayapur and spoken very strongly on the topic of child abuse, including the topic of satanic ritual abuse. And when I came back to Alachua, where I stay, there was no mention of my name. People weren't really talking about me. I didn't even hear anything. So I was really surprised that this little video of a conversation that I was simply reporting on had made such a disturbance in the community. Anyways, I spoke only a small fraction of my experience with him and omitted the majority, knowing that it wasn't the proper format or the right time for those truths to be spoken. And yet, I was subsequently ostracized and banned from the local ISKCON temple here from coming to the temple. Longtime friends of mine that I've known for 10, 20 years shunned me without so much as a conversation with me about why, considering me offensive. To be fair, after the full length of my video testimony came out, I was contacted by the temple authorities who asked me to come in for an interview. They had serious concerns about me, they said. News travels fast in a small town, and many people were talking about my video. For those who are invested in seeing Radhanath Swami as the saint he presents himself to be. This disturbed them, understandably. I wonder if, though, they actually watched my video or simply refused to and listened to other people saying, she's offensive, don't watch it. It would be guru aparad to do so. Because the conversation that I have in that video is actually quite innocuous. Anyway, this caused some uproar at the regular temple goers, and during one temple announcement, the temple president said, "Don't believe everything you hear on the internet," referring to my video that had just come out. And some people applauded and clapped. Now, keep in mind that I've had a relationship with this temple president since I was born, essentially, as a little girl growing up in the Detroit temple. I remember her teaching me how to cook in the kitchen there, Karada Kunja Bihari, but somehow without even a conversation, she felt justified in mocking me publicly. And then calling me in for an interview, which I wasn't really inclined to attend because they'd already shown their mood, they'd already shown their behavior, and I wasn't about to be subjected to an interrogation, especially after they had already made their conclusion, and just what I felt what they were going to be doing is trying to pick me apart or find holes in my testimony. So I said thanks, but no thanks. Anyways, we had some email correspondence, and I brought up some important points shastrically, as well as quotes from His Divine Grace on the topic of banning. And I am going to include a link to those correspondences for anyone who may be interested, because it's not just me who got banned for speaking up about abuse in ISKCON. A lot of people get abused. Say the wrong thing, you get abused. And at first I was upset that I was banned, but then I really took it as a blessing, because Krishna knows everyone's heart. And he knew how hard it was for me to show up at the temple and to see, as the pujaris are doing their worship, to see the pictures of gurus who had done the most unspeakable, horrible things on the altar right next to the Guru Parampara and Srila Prabhupada. That was always a real challenge for me to do that. And it created a very conflicting cognitive dissonance that happened every time I went to the temple. So, by the time I tried to overcome my cognitive dissonance and just be present with the beautiful lordships on the altar and the holy name, a lot of times I wasn't winning my battle, and it was hard. It was really hard to show up. And then I know a lot of other people who've expressed that it's such a mixed bag. It's almost easier to stay home. So when they banned me, I was like, okay, Krishna wants me to stay home. I'll stay home. Part of me wanted to shout from the rooftops, just look at the hypocrisy. But I have a lot more important things to do with my energy, my very limited energy. I have 4 children and a beautiful husband and a lot of cooking and cleaning to do. And then the ongoing healing. And I also didn't want to be petty. I don't like to just be a gossip and, hey, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, but now the time is different. I feel prompted that the truth really, really is overdue. The truth needs to come out, and it's at hand. Many devotees have expressed that they know or they feel something is wrong with the organization, but they can't quite put their finger on it. They just know that, hey, this isn't the same movement / organization that I joined back in the 60s and 70s. There's something different. I mean, the trappings all look the same, but there's really something different about the heart of it. And so I wrote here, a slow and oftentimes not so silent shift happened after the departure of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Persons fueled by passion and material ambition forcibly occupied the seat of the acharyas. Others, who are far more clever, played a much more patient game. They said, let the big shots all fall, and I will come in and take all of their disciples, making it look like I'm doing them all a very big service with my ultra humility. I fell for it too, Everyone wants to be seen and loved, after all. And a few well-placed words of praise and attention showered on me was all it took for me to give my heart to Radhanath Swami. I felt wanted, I felt loved, but now I understand what was really taking place. I was being cultivated, and had been in the past, and wooed. And when I was no longer useful, when I started speaking about my abuse that he didn't want to address or hear, I was simply rejected, and he came out of it looking like the victim, a victim of me, the offensive one here. And I'm also going to be including a link to the letter that I wrote to him and had hand delivered many years ago. And to this day, many years later, he's never responded to it, never referred to it, nothing. And actually, around the same time my video was a discussion topic at the temple, another temple authority told my brother, "The problem with Jwalamukhi is that she's so believable." That's interesting, isn't it? Another Prabhupada disciple told me that the temple president threatened to ban him and the person he was talking to about my video because they were discussing it on temple property. That's also very interesting. And it begs the question, why the need to censor? Why do they need me to be seen as offensive and crazy, brainwashed, influenced, etc.? What are they afraid of? And what may they be hiding? Also, as an aside, anyone who has ever interacted with me over my lifetime of service in ISKCON will tell you what kind of a person I am. Only those who are afraid of the truth coming out, or those who don't know me, will accuse me of being crazy, offensive, etc. Now, I'm eccentric and I definitely have many faults, but crazy and offensive aren't among them. And I'm not trying to say this to glorify myself, toot my own horn, but it's important because many of you don't know me, you haven't had any dealings with me. But if you are serious about trying to get to the root of, what's my motive for doing all of this? Well, it's the truth. And if you want to review my character and my dealings, I've had a very long string of very deep friendships with devotees and non-devotees alike. I'm true to my friendships. I've been married for 20 years to the same man. I have 4 children. I'm a hard worker, etc., etc. I go out of my way to try to help people, even if it hasn't always worked. It rarely works, but my life is basically cleaning and cooking and childcare, and I've always got at least 4 to 6 to 10 children running around. So it's a full-time job keeping up with all of this and trying to process the pain, the healing, trying to communicate with others and clear Srila Prabhupada's name, which is really my heartbeat, which is really my passion. That here's something so valuable, something so incredible, and it's been tarnished by the behavior of his so-called disciples. And on my watch, I'm not going to let that happen. That's my motive, if you want to know. That's why I'm speaking up. That's why I'm putting these cartoons out there. And yeah, you're right. Some of you said they're not funny. Yeah, they're not funny. They're true. And some people say, hey, these are offensive. And I would say, you're right. But who committed the offense? When the flashback started, and all throughout the painstaking process of healing from extreme abuse, I often questioned my own sanity. I used to think it would make things a lot easier if it was just me that was crazy, because then it would just be my problem. But it's not. Unfortunately, I am far from the only one who remembers what happened. And it's not like it stopped just because people don't talk about it or they don't know. It's still going on. And after all, I'd like to remind people that we live in Kali Yuga, aka Satan time period. So, it kind of boggles my mind as people are like, that's not real, right? Satanic ritual abuse. I'm like, well, come on. Haven't you read Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana? What do the demons do in all of those histories? They kill and eat people and pour blood on the yagya, and they try to stop the yagya and perform human sacrifice and eat babies. And it's kind of been going on since time immemorial, since demons were demons. And in Kali Yuga, in the present age, that doesn't happen anymore? Really? And the movement that was made by the Lord himself wasn't infiltrated by demons trying to stop the Sankirtan Yagya, the only force powerful enough on this planet to turn the face of the demonic society around? Really? They just said, okay, we'll sit this one out and let you have it? Really? This little thoughtfulness, right? I mean, if you were a demon and you wanted to stop the Sankirtan Yagya, how would you do it? Well, you do it the way they're doing it now. You'd go in early, pose as one of the followers of his divine grace, betray him deeply, and then take over and take out as many kids as you could, break their faith, turn them away, make them associate Krishna consciousness with hell, and then take over, kick everyone out who says something different than you, and have a bunch of new people join who don't know any better. And here we are 40 years later. Anyways, that was a rant. That was not part of my article. Let me get back to it. So, the worship of Satan / Kali is ghastly, and it's done in secret, right under everyone's noses. It's been going on for many centuries, thousands of years, and it's quite organized. There is no institution, religious or otherwise, that is not infiltrated with Kali's agents, and ISKCON is no exception. Organized religion is their all-time favorite place to hide in plain sight. It is said the devil loves to quote scripture. Anyway, being banned from the temple does not so much affect me. I worship at home, but it does affect my children. A couple of years ago, I had asked official permission to attend the Janmashtami festival with my kids because they want to go. And I thought, well, let me be polite. Instead of just showing up and having a scene, let me ask, can I come with my kids to Janmashtami? I won't talk about anything controversial, I'll just be there to celebrate the Lord's appearance. And they said, no, you can send your kids with somebody else, but you're not allowed to come. There was a little back and forth on that, and I was like, okay. And one of my sons later said, Mom, when I go to the temple, I keep looking for your sari color, but you're not there, and it makes me really sad. And I just realized, wow, how is this affecting my children? And what is this teaching them? And do the authorities even care? I mean, I was one of those children. What would Srila Prabhupada have to say about this? Anyways, it's been about 3 years now since I've been banned from the ISKCON temple here, just a few miles down the road. I drive by it all the time. Hi, Krishna. This past Janmashtami 2019, I went to the grocery store early morning to buy some flowers for my home worship. And as I was leaving, I ran into a friend of mine who wished me happy Janmashtami and have a nice celebration at the temple. And I said to him, well, you know that I'm banned, right? And he said, yeah, I'd heard that, but is there a way to fix that? I mean, a lot of people don't know that I'm banned because I've become more or less a recluse. So I was surprised that he knew. And I said, yeah, there's a way to fix it. The temple authorities need to officially apologize. And the conversation went on from there for about 40 minutes. And it was really a needed conversation. It was unplanned, but I knew that it was a divine arrangement because I had my 1-year-old daughter in my arms who never sleeps while I'm standing up in a hot parking lot. And she, at that time of day, which she doesn't do, she took a nap right in my arms and was totally out. So I thought, wow, Krishna is allowing me to have an important conversation here. And this devotee, he was very genuine, and he cared enough to actually interview me. Like, it was the actual interview, not the interrogation. He was actually asking me questions with curiosity, and he cared. And he posed his doubts and things he'd heard other people say about me and my group, but he did something revolutionary. He actually listened. And by the end of the conversation, in which I detailed many things, I'm sure that were very shocking and hard for him to hear, I said to him, I know it's Janmashtami, and this is a horrible topic to have to talk about on Janmashtami, but when the Lord descends to this earth, he comes to not only protect the devotees, but to kill the demons. And I know what I've told you is hard to accept, and I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect anyone to believe me. It's a really big pill to swallow, what I'm saying. And I know that in the Lord's time, in the Lord's way, he will reveal all of these truths, and that I'm not the one who's going to expose everything and I'm not going on a war path for that. I mean, I used to think that's what I wanted, to expose the demons and, throw them out of the organization. But over the years, I've realized that that's no longer an option. The corruption, the deviation is systemic. And I see that the only thing left to do is to raise a flag and say, anybody who's already awake, anybody who already knows there's something off over here, and invite sincere people out who are able to be woken up. You can wake a sleeping person, but you cannot wake one pretending to sleep. So, Srila Prabhupada himself had to do that with the Gaudiya Math, start over again. So that's the attempt, that's the invitation. So what I told him was, do this. You don't have to believe a word that I've said. Take everything I've shared with you and throw it out the window. And if you actually accept that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is non-different from his deity form, then please go to him on the altar and offer him a sincere prayer from your heart. And because that's really how all of this started for me. All of this started for me because I was seeing so much going on in ISKCON and in the communities that was not representative of what Srila Prabhupada gave us. There were divorces, affairs, and scandals, and senior devotees just being tossed aside after a lifetime of service. This wasn't right. These weren't things that Srila Prabhupada ever would sanction or agree to. And yet this was going on, and I had no power to change it. So I had said this prayer briefly: please show me myself as I truly am, so that one day I can see you as you truly are. My dear Lord, please purify me, purify me, purify me. And I stood there, and the Lord took me seriously. Now, 10 years have passed since I said that prayer, and my life has never been the same since. My eyes are wide open, but it all began with a desire to be empowered to do something, to please Srila Prabhupada, to actually do something that would make him proud, to do something to have the communities be the oasis they were meant to be, instead of just another organized religion and social club. I told my friend standing in the Publix parking lot, please first examine your own heart. Honestly, what do you want? Do you want the truth? Really? Or do you want to remain comfortable? Because in my experience, you cannot have both. And I said, I'm sorry if I disturbed your mind. And I thanked him for his time, for his kindness, for his sincerity. And, he's really a true Vaishnava by quality, not by label. And then without warning, I just burst into tears. Like my whole chest was like on fire, and I just totally lost it. And I'm not one to publicly display emotion, but there was nothing that I could do to stop the complete volcano inside of me. And my poor friend must have been at a complete loss, just standing there watching me have a hyperventilating sob fit, running towards the car with my baby and grocery cart in tow, and some kind woman I heard from the side say, hey, I'm going to come and help you. Wait, And so I'm fiddling with my key, trying to get the car open, and this lady drives and parks right next to me and gets out and says, "Where do you want your groceries?" And, she puts them in my trunk for me. And I was able to get my sleeping daughter buckled into the car seat. And by God's grace, she actually stayed asleep. And I knew it was a divine miracle at that point. But the lady said, "Ma'am, do you need a hug?" And to my surprise, I said, "Yeah, I need a hug." And I just sobbed in the arms of a complete stranger in the hot sun in a Publix parking lot on Janmashtami. And when I got in my car, well, at first I thanked her. "Thank you so much for that. You're an angel." And I managed to get in my car, and on the way home, it was just really hard to see the road. I just couldn't stop crying. When I got home, I went in front of my altar and I sat there for at least half an hour. I still couldn't stop crying. And the funny thing was, I asked myself, why am I crying? What is this about? And I didn't even know, but it felt so healing and it felt so important and good, all those tears. And I realized that Krishna had made an arrangement on his own appearance day for me to actually know that there are people out there who care, who want to know the truth, and who are open to hearing. And that meant so much to me, especially after all the years of criticism and ridicule. And there was such a relief. So this brings me to one of the things that my friend kept bringing up, which was my teacher. So there's been a lot of rumors going on around my teacher. She is my beloved mentor. She's a disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Her name is Kamra Prabhu. At the heart of all the rumors, her name is always the first that comes up. "Oh, Kamra, she's dangerous. She puts false memories of satanic ritual abuse in people's heads. Be aware." Her name has been dragged through the mud by the by the same group of persons who banned me. They have the most to fear of either myself or Kamra Prabhu. They're very afraid that we are seen as credible. Our credibility very much threatens their sense of safety, interestingly. And because from their point of view, which is the truth coming out, it would ruin the last 40 years of carefully calculated endeavors on their part. Therefore, if you want to know if the rumors are true, I'm not going to stand here and defend myself, and neither am I going to try to defend her. I'll invite you to hear from her directly, to gauge for yourself if we are crazy, if we are offensive, if we are off. And I invite you to check it out yourself. So with great endeavor, she has put together this beautiful website called purelyprabhupad.com, www.purelyprabhupad.com. And it's an offering to the world, and especially to sincere followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who know that something is off with the organization, but don't want to deviate from his mood and teachings, as some other groups have done in their upset towards the organization, towards the hypocrisy in the organization. On a personal note, I owe Kamra Prabhu my life many times over. I am not proud to admit there were times when I was ready to end my life because of the irreconcilable dichotomy inside the things that I had lived through and could not cope with. But my teacher, Kamra Prabhu, was there for me always, and she carefully, patiently, and expertly helped me to see myself as a pure spirit soul, despite all the horror. And she knew how to walk me out of it because she'd already done it herself. She'd already lived through it herself. She is the reason that I am still alive today. She not only saved my physical life, but more importantly, she saved my relationship with Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. I was a child born and raised in ISKCON. What I endured in the name of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna is, simply put, unspeakable evil. Kamra Prabhu helped me separate the poison from the nectar, the illusion from the truth. And I accept her as a bona fide representative of her spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, due to her history, her character, and her qualities. She is through and through one of Srila Prabhupada's stalwart spiritual warriors, one of his amazing daughters. And I am utterly grateful to her for more things than words can say. And I invite you to meet her through her work, through her website, through her presentations. Anyone who condemns her, speaks ill of her, has, in my humble opinion, a lot to learn. For speaking the truth all throughout her devotional life, she's been criticized, blamed, ostracized, and attacked verbally and physically by the worst of demonic hypocrites, the agents of Kali that Srila Prabhupada warned us about. Now she is finally ready to tell her story. PurelyPrabhupada.com is her attempt to clear her spiritual master's name, Srila Prabhupada's name, from all of the deviation and nonsense that has gone on in his name. It is an invitation to all sincere souls to band together to uphold the purity of the most precious gifts that Srila Prabhupada gave us. It is an endeavor to present to the general populace a safe place to hear transcendental knowledge without the cheating. If you want to know the qualifications, history, or character of my dear mentor, Kamra Prabhu, who has taken the blame for so much, I invite you to hear from her directly. Please read her article called Not in My Name. It is about clearing Srila Prabhupada's name from all of the deviations and nonsense that has gone on in his name. I've included a link below. Her professional website is workofanangel.com. Again, www.workofanangel.com. But most of all, I say that if you need a safe place to repose your heart after all of the spiritual, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, please visit us at purelyprabhupada.com for a safe Sangha. I thank you very much for your time, for your attention. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.